Queen Chudala is with her husband. Her husband is in a state of superconscious meditation, and she's wondering whether to bring him out of it or not. It seems that the next state for him is one of disembodiment, whereby the body is abandoned, and she's wondering whether she should join him in this condition, because she's also a liberated being. While she was getting ready to abandon her body, she again thought, before I abandon my body, let me see if there is a seed of mind, vasana, somewhere in his body. If there is, he can be awakened, and then both of us can live as liberated beings. If there is not, and if he's attained final liberation, I shall also abandon this body. She examined his body and found that the seed of individuality was still present in him, which is a bit of a surprise, because Satva was supposed to have renounced all attachment. Rama asked, Lord, when the body of the sage lies like a log of wood, how can one know that there is still a trace of Satva, purified mind, in him? And Satva means purified mind. Satva is what was described as freedom. It is not mind at all, but pure light, Satva. The liberated ones live and function here established in the Satva, not in the mind. This is from chapter 101. What we've got here is yogic ideas mixed up with the teachings of self-enquiry. Satva, the husband of Queen Chudala, is in a superconscious state. He's realised something through self-enquiry. He's realised the truth through self-enquiry under the guidance of his wife in disguise. And now he's using his yogic powers of concentration to abide in this inert state, like a log of wood. So the problem is, how could he be revived if he's reached this state? Vasishta said, in his heart, unseen and subtle, there is the trace of Satva, which is the cause for the revival of body consciousness. It is like the flower and the fruit, which are potentially present in the seed. This seems like something that's been pulled out of the hat. This Satva, which is the cause for the revival of body consciousness. In the case of the sage, whose mind is totally free from the movement of thought, who is devoid of the least notion of duality or unity, whose consciousness is utterly firm and steady like a mountain, his body is in a state of perfect equilibrium and does not show signs of pain or pleasure. It does not rise or fall, live or die, but remains in perfect harmony with nature. It is only as long as there are notions of duality or unity that the body undergoes changes as the mind does. It is the movement of thought that appears as this world. Because of that, the mind experiences pleasure, anger and delusion, which thus remain irrepressible. But when the mind is firmly established in equanimity, such disturbances do not arise in one. He is like pure space. We're getting stories here, stories of spirituality, stories of realisation. We must be aware that these are stories. I've mentioned before that sometimes I think teachers can go astray when they start looking into the implications of realisation. Rather than being concerned with realisation, they start looking into the implications of it. And here the implications are that the body undergoes no change if you're in this liberated state. We get caught up in these ideas, and then we get caught up in stories of amazing powers. I think it's a mistake to start to base theories of health, physical health, emotional, mental health on spiritual realisation, because you can prove anything. You can take it as your starting point to prove anything, from the ability to develop supernormal powers to a rationale for some kind of horrible eugenics. It's a very dangerous thing to do, and not only that, it takes you away from the whole point of it, which is self-enquiry. There's no more point in self-enquiry than the realisation of the self. And you don't realise the self because you want supernormal powers, or you want psychological health, or you want to have a good mind. You could do it for all these reasons, but these reasons have to be dropped at a certain point. And the only reason for practicing self-enquiry is to realise the nature of the self. It becomes its own reason. There's no basis for it, there's no justification for it. It's like breathing, it's part of our unfoldment as human beings. It's a part of our unfoldment as creations of this universe, things that have arisen in this universe. But if we start looking for benefits, for advantages, then we're going to go quite far astray. And we get into these stories which can be quite wonderful, but they have absolutely nothing to do with self-enquiry. It's more to do with what I've called the romance of spirituality. And the romance of spirituality gets in the way of spirituality. Vasishta continued, when the Satva is in a state of total equilibrium, then no physical or psychological defects are experienced. It is not possible to abandon Satva. It reaches its end in course of time. When there is neither the mind nor even the Satva in the body, then, like snow melting in the heat, the body dissolves in the elements. Sikadvaja's body was free from the mind, movement of thought, but was endowed with a trace of Satva. Therefore it did not dissolve into the elements. Noticing this, Chudala decided, I shall enter into the pure intelligence which is omnipresent, and endeavour to awaken our body consciousness in him. If I do not do so, he will surely awaken after some time. But why should I remain alone till then? So Chudala would rather have some company. The liberated Chudala would rather have some company. So we're getting these stories, we're getting these concoctions, we're getting this mixture of self-enquiry and yogic understanding. And I think we should just take it as part of the story and not read too much into it, because this has got nothing to do with self-enquiry.